Hi guys, welcome back to Infinite Possibilities, the podcast where we explore the lives of amazing people, their choices, challenges and opportunities. And today I have a very special guest, Tapani.
Hello.
Hi, thank you for being here.
Thanks for inviting me.
Yeah, and how do you say your full name? I don't want to make a mistake.
My full name is Tapani Rinta-Kahila. And if you want to add my middle name, it's Tapani Valtteri Rinta-Kahila.
Wow,
Quite a mouthful.
Yeah, but very cool. Has a kind of nice rhythm to it.
Yeah. You say so.
Yeah. Okay, so Tapani, what kind of work do you do?
So I'm a lecturer in the Business Information Systems group at the University of Queensland Business School. So basically I teach at the university level students and I do research on how information systems are being used in organizations, how organizations may use artificial intelligence responsibly, and around related topics. And then I do various service duties that are, part of the deal of working at the university.
Sounds good. So we really want to know how Tapani got to where he is today. So we're going to take a look back into Tapani's childhood. So Tapani, what kind of child were you like growing up?
Oh, that's probably I was. My parents tell me that I was easy child.
Oh,
like
that's
I
good.
wasn't doing that much of mischief or running around, but I would kind of be. I was quite peaceful, and I was always kind of. I like to, I don't know, go explore nature, forests a bit. So I guess curious and peaceful child.
Wow. And did you have siblings?
Yeah, I still have. They are. I have a little sister and little brother.
Oh, and are they peaceful too?
Yeah.
Runs in your family, huh?
Maybe. Yeah.
Maybe. Yeah, so were you big on reading when you were younger? What kind of hobbies did you have?
Yeah, I mainly read comics, I think. But yeah, I was big on reading them. Beyond that, I guess I was also drawing a lot. So yeah.
Oh, that's quite nice. And what about in terms of personality? Were you a very shy, introverted kid?
Yeah, I was pretty shy and pretty introverted. I'd say so. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that sounds cool. And so when you were kind of like in high school-ish, when you were thinking about careers, what was kind of floating through your mind, if anything?
So high school, I think at that time, not that much was floating in my mind, but I would say that I didn't have a clear idea, so I went to. I guess I thought that business degree will be useful degree and very practical, so that's why I went to business school. That's why I applied to business school, got in, and yep.
Yeah, that's cool. And what about, did your parents kind of have an input on what they thought you should do?
Not a strong input, no. I think they gave me the freedom to really pursue whatever interests me, but they would keep stressing that it's important to get educated, to get a degree, and get preferably a university level, master level degree. So yeah.
Oh, okay.
They value education.
Yeah, sounds good. And so when you started your Bachelor of Business, how was that? And you did it in Finland, right?
Yes.
Oh, very nice. And how did you decide what kind of major you wanted to choose?
Yeah, so that was kind of a tough one because I guess I didn't have a strong preference or strong passion, but I ended up selecting business technology because I guess the tech side, started to interest me at that point, and also I found the course, the basic course, most interesting. That was kind of related to that area.
And just to clarify, business technology, is that the same as business information systems? Or?
Yeah. So then later on in the It covers it. So later on, the master degree, business information systems is one of the focus areas around that.
Business technology is like the broad kind of category.
Yeah, that's what they called it in my bachelor. I don't know what they call it now, but yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Interesting. And so you just chose it because it sort of interested you, or did you choose it like through a process of elimination? Were there any sort of like other majors that you almost did? Do you think?
Yeah. I guess finance was one of them, but that was more of a. I guess I don't think I had a strong internal drive for it, but it's just like it was a very kind of desirable topic. A lot of people were trying to get into finance, and not everyone would get into finance. So yeah, I guess good jobs were the motivator there.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
cool. And so when you were close to graduating, and what was your sort of plan at that time? Were you thinking I would go to industry, or you would continue working through academia?
So then I didn't consider academia initially at all. I was
Perfect.
yeah. So I was kind of trying to figure out what it is, what would it be that I would like to do, and I guess it really came together with when I started working on my master's thesis, and I had a very good supervisor who was very kind of supportive, and it turned out to be an interesting study, and he also got kind of excited about it, and we wrote a conference paper on that, and then he just brought it up, like, you might want to consider a PhD, and that's why, and that's when before that moment I had not even considered PhD at all, and that's when I started. Well, I think that actually I've been enjoying this research side of things more. More than I've enjoyed the actual, I don't know, I guess the courses that were training you for more of a practical things. I enjoyed the kind of I guess the investigation, the exploration side of things.
Yeah, that's kind of cool. And at that time, so you did masters straight after doing your bachelor's, was that
Yep.
correct?
Yep.
Yeah, and how did you sort of make that decision? Some people want to go to industry and then come back and do their masters, but you just went all the way through.
So I don't know. My understanding is that in Finland, it's mainly people do all the way, like the masters straight away.
Oh,
so I
that's
would say
common.
probably more people when they go to university, they're just gonna do the full package, bachelor, master there.
Yeah.
But I've noticed it might be different in different countries.
Yeah.
So that wasn't really a decision; it was an assumption that at university
hilarious.
I'm gonna do a master degree. So
Yeah. Oh, that's kind of cool. And so I remember before in our previous conversations, you're saying about like how you're going to try consulting, and where was that in the timeline, and how did you decide that you still wanted to go down academia?
I think it.
Was it after your bachelor's, after your master's?
No, I'm not really sure. I don't know which conversation you might refer to, but so I guess I had the idea that maybe after doing the PhD,
Yeah.
I would give a shot at
Industry.
industry, just to get some industry experience, or just to see the other side of things, because I've been in academia, and then but then at that point, when that point came, I was working on many papers,
Yeah.
and I really enjoyed working on them. I really enjoyed the academic life, and then I thought, like, okay, if I now go to industry, then I'm gonna drop these papers. I don't have the time to work on these papers. So then I was like, why, if I'm enjoying what I'm doing now, why would I do something else? So there was a natural continuum.
Wow. So you just sort of had a strong passion for academia since your master's?
Well, the passion developed. It was more of I wasn't sure what I would do after the masters,
Yeah.
but I noticed that I enjoy the research and academic research. And then I thought that, okay, doing a PhD is a great opportunity to I guess challenge myself and to improve.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to lose anything if I do a PhD. It's just going to be like extra. It's going to be a bonus. So, but then it turned out that I enjoyed it enough to get to the academic trajectory.
Wow. And so since you've done the bachelor, the master, the PhD, how does sort of the work sort of change? And did you like enjoy your PhD more than your master's, or did you have a preference?
Yeah. I definitely enjoyed my PhD more than my master's, because I guess during my bachelor and master's, it wasn't clear to me what was it that I wanted to do or be. Whereas during my PhD, I was like, okay, now it's clear. I do, like, there are certain goals, get some certain publications out,
Yeah.
learn methods, I don't know, understand theories, and everything was much clearer. So that made it more enjoyable. That made my performance was far better, because I kind of knew why I was working, if that makes sense.
Oh, yeah, that's true. And so tell me more about that PhD journey. So, because when I talk to a lot of people, I'm like, hey, how was it, doing a PhD? Like, don't talk to me about it. Or like, one advice, don't do it. And I'm surprised to hear someone like to have such a positive experience and still smiling about it all these years.
Who's telling you those?
I'm clearly talking to the wrong people. But PhD, it's such, how long was your PhD? It's like roughly 4 or 5 years or even longer?
Yeah, I think I did it in about roughly 4 years, yeah.
Yeah, and like, was it like very smooth, you just go milestone after milestone, or were there days when you really couldn't see the light at the end of the tunnel, like, why am I doing this? And because PhD is such a niche, like.
It was, the beginning was the hardest because that was, you don't really know what to do.
Yeah.
You're just like, I was sitting in the office and trying to read some papers, trying to write something, but I didn't really know what I was doing. But at the same time, I was also taking courses that train you in methods, that train you in theory and all that stuff. So, maybe the beginning was difficult, and then you get the usual whatever imposter syndrome that a lot of academics get. That they're like, am I really in the right place?
Yeah.
Maybe maybe there's been a mistake. Maybe.
Yeah.
And then. But then I got, was it later, I think in my second year or latest in my third year, it starts to get like, okay, now I actually know, I know what I need to, I know what I'm doing, I know what I need to do. So then it became, I guess, easier and easier. So I didn't get this kind of a block.
Yeah. Oh, that's kind of interesting. And so what was your kind of PhD topic on, and how did you choose?
Yes, that was so I did it on organizational decisions to discontinue the use of an information technology. So basically, when organization decommissions, takes some of its technological systems out of use, and it was about that, and it was about like how does that happen, why does that happen, and what are the implications of that. That was the topic. How did I end up doing that? That was it was very emergent, I would say. It was very. Initially, I set out to study. It was more about adoption of technology that I started to study, and that was. I guess the original initial idea was that like how do you trigger adoption? There's this idea that people might have intentions to adopt the technology. But then the intention doesn't always translate in the actual behavior.
Yeah.
And then I wanted to explore that intention-behavior gap, like how do you trigger intention to behavior. But then somehow in the adoption space, there's been so much research on technology adoption. So it's really hard to also find new angles to that.
Yeah.
And then I think it was a colleague at Aalto who actually asked if it was actually, before that, I was also wrote a paper on organizational adoption of technologies. Like, why do organizations sometimes struggle to adopt technologies? So that was still kind of the same idea.
Yeah.
But then that kind of concluded in the insight that, okay, it's not only about the adoption, but it's actually replacement. So they have something already in use. They have already, whether it's a technical system or just like a paper-based system, but they have some system in use. And they are struggling to get rid of, like, let go of that system to adopt a new one. And that's what kind of directed my attention to discontinuing the use of incumbent technology. And then a colleague asked me, because he had also started looking into that phenomenon, because that's very kind of, that was and still is a little under-researched aspect of technology use. And he asked if I'm interested in writing a paper together on the topic. So at that point I still didn't know. I wrote a paper together with him, and then I had like kind of 3 papers that were kind of a little bit different, and I didn't know if they fit in the same PhD.
Yeah.
And then I had this data set that I had collected for my master's thesis and for my first paper, and then with the help of another colleague at Aalto, we actually found the angle to that data set that there was actually discontinued use of technology. Like, there was a organization had taken away the technology between, Yeah, so basically there was that. So we were able to study that with that data.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. A bit of luck, right?
Yeah, there was a
Putting
bit
your
of luck.
work
Yeah,
out there.
yeah. And I wonder why I didn't think of that in the first place. And then there was a bit of more luck. So also my supervisor, he found a case, yet another case of discontinuance of technology. So
Perfect.
then I have 3 papers together that are all on that topic.
Yeah.
And I've got really into that topic because that one paper with my colleague was a literature review on what do we know, what's the state of knowledge on discontinued use of IS. So I pretty much knew what's been researched. It was really smooth. And then I found, of a third empirical case of that. So
Perfect.
And that's then you got a PhD.
Yeah, damn. But PhD is hard because you can't do a topic that no one that has already been done. But at the same time, you can't work on something that is too new that there's nothing on it at all. So finding your spot in the world is very, very hard.
It's not easy, yeah.
Yeah.
And looking back, there would have been many different topics, many different angles that I could have done, but I just kind of ended up doing that because that kind of emerged. So it's,
Oh, that's cool. And how far were you into the sort of journey when you found that angle eventually?
it did come already, I would say, after the first year. So I had been, that's when it first emerged, but it wasn't set yet. I still could have done different topics, but it's just, I started kind of drifting more and more towards that because, everything seemed to be pointing towards that topic. So,
all the stars in the universe
aligned.
Okay, that's cool. And then how does one sort of become very passionate about the same thing for 4 years? Because it seems like it's almost kind of like an arbitrary topic. It's like a topic and then suddenly you sort of become so interested in. How do you maintain passion, and have you always been passionate about it for 4 years?
So that's a good question, interesting question. I would say what I'm more passionate about is about understanding the relationship between humans and technology on a kind of, I think that the more kind of fundamental questions that are fascinating to me. And then within different more practical research topics, you can actually explore that more general phenomena.
Yeah.
So I guess as an example, in one of my case studies, so the case study was about a firm that had discontinued the use of an kind of automated system that had a lot of automation. And that had been automating processes for them for a few years.
Are we talking legacy systems or no, not that old?
Not necessarily that old, but like a system, a very kind of specific niche system that would automate certain aspect of work.
Yeah.
And because they've been using this system for so many years, then these workers had actually lost some of their understanding of how to do that, because in order to keep up their understanding, they need to it was an accounting related process, so they need to keep up to date with legislation, and they also need to do the hands-on working, otherwise you'll kind of lose it. Yeah. And they hadn't done that because they had the automation in place. And then, when they took it away, the managers didn't know that they didn't know how to do this thing. So then they were in trouble. They couldn't do these kind of tax reports, for instance. So that has that's an implication of what happened because they took away the system. But there is so much more. It's not just about taking away the system. It's about what happens to human skills when we are relying on automation. And that's a very fundamental kind of a dilemma, that we use all these technologies. I'm using Google Maps when I try to get somewhere. I no longer pay attention to what's around me. And if I lose the internet connection, then I'm lost. So it leads you to this kind of very interesting themes.
Oh, damn. Yeah, that's true. And overall, what kind of person do you think is suited to the research route and maybe who's not? Because it's kind of interesting, you sort of slowly developed your passion for research and you didn't initially think that that's the route you would take. So what kind of people do you think are suited and maybe not so suited?
It's a tough question because
Yeah.
I guess there can be many different kinds of researchers.
Yeah.
So, but I guess if you want to see, if you want quick results for your work that are like immediately you can see the real world impact,
Yeah.
then I don't know if research, at least in social sciences, that might not be the best place to be
that's
because
true. People are impatient. Mm.
we're contributing the body of knowledge as slowly. And also I guess in general in academic, like if you need to be able to tolerate some level of, I guess, uncertainty.
Yeah.
I guess that's nowadays anywhere.
Yeah.
But in terms of you might need to be ready to move to another city, to another country, because there are only so many universities in one city and only so many positions. And if you don't get it, then it's either you move or then you need to you relocate or then you need to consider a change of career or so that's kind of
Yeah.
there's a bigger I guess dynamism in that sense.
Yeah. That's interesting. And I think your bachelor, master, and PhD, they were all at the same university. Was that
Yeah,
correct?
yeah.
Yeah, and how did you decide that you just wanted to, like, surely you must have gotten sick of your university at that point?
No, not really. I mean,
What?
I think it's a good place. I enjoyed my time there, definitely. Yeah.
Yeah, I guess it was probably because of all the connections you built there. And then, was your PhD, like, your PhD supervisor was also your master's
Yeah,
thesis supervisor?
yes.
So I guess that's a very natural kind of decision.
It was natural. Yeah, natural.
Yeah.
So I was lucky to have a very kind of very supportive and very engaged master's and PhD supervisor. So that really helped me in getting where I am today. So.
Yeah, that's kind of cool. Yeah, and also I saw that you did some exchanges, right?
Yes.
Malaysia and then Taiwan. So tell
Yeah.
me more about that.
Yeah, I mean, there was Kuala Lumpur was one semester.
During your masters?
That was during Bachelors.
Oh, sick.
So we were group of, I think it was like kind of one class of mainly Finnish. I think we were all actually Finnish students. So it was like 50 Finnish students in Malaysia. Learning, it was more about the cultural side of business. That was.
So it's not really emphasis, nah.
No, that was not
sick.
information systems.
Nice. And how did you choose Kuala Lumpur? How did you choose Malaysia?
I had some friends who did the same exchange program earlier, and they were raving about it. So I had been to Kuala Lumpur when I was like 5 years old. So yeah.
Oh, that's kind of cool. And what about the Taiwan exchange?
Yeah, well, that was awesome as well.
Bachelors? Masters?
That was masters, yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
sick. And was it because of the same reason? Your friend was like, hey, it's happening.
No. I didn't know anyone who had gone there. But because I had gone to the Kuala Lumpur and I enjoyed, like being grown in Finland, it's nice to go to warm tropical places because Finland is not too warm, tropical. So that was just like a natural thing. Like, okay, I had an awesome exchange semester in Kuala Lumpur. I want to do another one, and I did it.
Yeah, that's awesome. And tell me about your decision to come to Australia, leaving Finland.
Yeah. So that was once I was kind of wrapping up my PhD, I started to look at the job market, and I guess my idea was that it's either somewhere in Europe or then also Australia, because I came to Australia with my parents for a few weeks when I was 5 years old.
Again, when you were 5.
Yeah, so that was the same trip actually. We went to Malaysia and then Australia. So it was the same trip. We were, I think, altogether 1 month. And then I don't remember it that well, but I just always had to, I want to go back to Australia. And then there was a job, and I applied it and was fortunate enough to get it.
Nice. At that point, did you get multiple offers? Did you have to sort of choose and toss up, or you just grabbed the first one?
No, yeah. This was the first offer that I got. And,
perfect.
But it was also, I guess it was the best possible offer because,
And that offer, was it called postdoctorate research?
Postdoc, 2-year postdoc position. Yes.
That's cool. And tell me more about how that's kind of different to doing a PhD.
It's not that different. It's actually you're just doing research,
Yeah.
but you're typically associated with a project. So
Yeah.
typically there is maybe someone has a grant or project money and they can hire a postdoc for that, and then you'll do research that contributes to the to the objectives of that project. But then also typically you have some leeway to, work on your own papers that are from your PhD, for instance. So, which is what I was also like. I was able to work on my papers that I had already started. So in a way, I was just continuing what I had been doing, working on papers, trying to publish them for my PhD.
Yeah.
But then also taking on new projects.
Yeah, that's cool. And what about, have you found some kind of differences between Finland and Australia, and how has that been sort of settling that transition?
Yeah, I mean it's not too different culture-wise. It's fairly similar, like a Western welfare society, but weather is more pleasant, I'd say. The culture it's more extroverted. So Finland is more introverted. So
That's hilarious too.
yeah. So people are very kind of talkative and engaging here, whereas Finland is like more.
Mind your own business.
Finnish people have that.
Yeah. Aw, that's kind of cool. And also, talk to me more about hiking and how you are you still maintaining that? Because that was a passion when you were younger.
Yeah. I'm very much into hiking, so I try to hike as much as I can. It's just like hard to find time recently.
Yeah.
And,
How do you balance them? Because you have to
not very
take
well. Yeah. I haven't done a hike in a while, but I just enjoy going to nature and just walking in the nature and also challenging myself. So it's just something that really resets your mind quite nicely.
Yeah, and how often do you sort of try to go for that kind of social media detox kind of thing? Is it like a regular every 3 months?
Yes, it's not specifically social media detox. I would say any computer detox.
Yeah, computers where all your work is.
Yeah. I don't know. I haven't done any hike in a while.
Yeah.
But I'm hoping to do some very soon. So
Yeah.
I don't have an average frequency for how many. As much as I can, I guess.
Yeah, that's cool. And your hikes are generally by yourself, right?
Oh, it really depends. Yeah, either by myself or with people. It really depends on the situation, I'd say. Yeah.
Do you have a preference?
Yeah, I do like to share the experience.
Oh,
So yeah.
I thought you were going to say the contrary, because it's kind of like your own time, sort of shut off the world, and then you bring someone along, and they're like,
No, I like sharing the experience, because then you can but I don't mind going alone either. So
yeah, that's kind of cool. And when you're doing a PhD at the time, did you sort of think that the end kind of goal was to become lecturer, which is what you're doing now, or when did sort of lecturing and that sort of teaching role kind of come into your mind?
Oh well, that's just it's a part of being an academic. So it's just in Europe and the US there's a different system. So there you're actually assistant professor, whereas here you're a lecturer.
Yeah.
But it's the same deal in a way that you are doing teaching, you're doing research.
Yeah.
Usually universities cite as their primary purpose is to educate.
Yeah.
So that's just it's part of being an academic. So that kind of naturally came, and during my PhD I did some teaching as well.
Yeah.
So it was kind of evident that will be the part of my daily work if I'm continuing as an academic.
Yeah, that's cool. And so what is kind of a day in the life of lecturing? Or like a day in the life of working at UQ? How would you sort of describe it?
Oh,
do you have fixed times where you when I go to work have to be there at like 8:30, or do you it's kind of like flexi?
Yeah, it's very flexible. So it really depends on the day.
Give me an example.
So it could be that I wake up in the morning and I have my breakfast, open my laptop and start reading a paper or writing a paper or whatever it is. And sometimes you might have a day when you're fully engaged working on one paper. If you have something that you need to progress it, and you just need to immerse yourself, so you might spend the full day working on one thing.
Yeah.
Then there are other days when you have a meeting here, meeting there. You might have to send a few emails. You might have to finalize maybe a paper, maybe submit another paper, maybe a review of a paper. So we do peer review of others' papers. Or then if I have teaching, then before the teaching I need to prep, check that my slides are okay. Remind myself what I'm going to be talking about, and so on, and then deliver or maybe answer students' emails. So.
Oh, that's cool.
That kind of stuff.
Yeah, and kind of curious, how many hours do you work as a researcher?
I don't really count the hours.
I know, but roughly. Because you can get really into your, because it's kind of like your own work, right? There's not someone sort of hovering over you, checking the progress necessarily. So.
Yeah, it's hard.
More than a regular full-time job, yeah?
Well, I guess depending on the full-time job. Like I know that some, let's say in consultancy business, some people work pretty crazy hours. So I don't really have a number for you.
Yeah, okay. I guess you just love your work so much, right?
Yeah.
And so if you weren't, doing lecturing and, doing research, what do you think you would have done? And do you think you could have been equally as happy?
Oh, that's a good question. I don't know. I would think that some sort of research job would have been something that would have suited me, and then that would have been just in the industry side.
Oh.
So of course, like industry is, companies are doing research as well, research and development. So that I guess that could be one. But I don't know if I would have kind of ended up in that kind of profession without this academic experience, but that could be something.
Other than research, do you think there's anything else that you could have done? Engineering, Tapani, maybe.
I'm not an engineer. I don't have the engineering degree, so I don't think so. I don't know. I guess consultancy is always, especially with a business degree, consultancy could be something,
Yeah, oh, that's
very
cool.
Typical,
Yeah, and since we're nearly at the kind of end of the podcast, just a few more quick questions.
Yeah.
So first is the deep one. What do you think kind of the meaning of life is for you?
Oh, wow. That's a very big question. So meaning of life. For me, I guess it would be to discover new things about myself and the world, and contribute positively to others' lives. I guess that would be one.
Yeah, that's pretty good. And how does sort of one find their passion? And do you think you've ever you found it, or do you think that there might be something that is even more aligned than what it is right now? What are your thoughts?
Oh, something that would be even more aligned with my passion than what I'm doing now.
And do you think you've already found it? You're like, oh, yeah, this is it, business information systems, lecturing, or...
Oh, there can always be something, but I couldn't tell you what it would be at the moment. I think it would be something that I would discover.
It would emerge.
Yeah, I think it would emerge, yeah. I'm having a very emergent life.
Yeah, that's cool. And so how does, a lot of young people these days, they really don't know what to do with their life. Yep. And how does one sort of find their passion or figure out this process? Do you have any sort of kind of advice, tips?
Well, I think one thing is good, what's useful to do is to think about whether you are enjoying what you're doing, daily, whatever activity that is a task, because I think there are there are probably many people who don't really enjoy what they're actually doing.
Yeah, day to day is most
They
important.
might like the idea of
Yeah.
being something, but then the actual activity level, they might not enjoy it.
Yeah.
So one thing is to reflect on that. Do I actually like
Yeah.
these daily things that I'm doing? Another thing is to think of values, like to be really clear of what your values are and to what extent what you're doing is aligned with them.
Yeah. Are you keen to share some of your values? What kind of stuff does that look like?
Well, I guess one would be, one of my value definitely is the kind of, I guess, environment and sustainability, and I guess like the importance of minimizing humans' negative impact on environment. That would be one thing.
And does
So if
that,
I would be doing something that is in direct contradiction with that value,
Yeah.
that might be problematic for me.
and does technology sort of feed into that kind of?
Yeah, I'm optimistic that technologies can be used to solve some of those problems. Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty good. And also a fun hypothetical question. So Tapani, if you won the lottery tomorrow, how would you sort of change your life? What would you do sort of kind of differently?
Oh, I don't know. I hope that wouldn't change my life too much. I would try. I would try to make it not to change my life too much, because I don't know if that would radically change my life. Then it may not. I don't know if it would change it for better because I'm already happy. So
Yeah, wow, that's so good then. Cool. And the final question is, what is your ideal day in the life? What time do you wake up and how do you spend your day?
Oh,
It can be like maybe there's one for work-wise, maybe there's one just purely for your leisure.
okay. I guess work-wise, waking up very early.
Oh, you're an early bird?
I don't know if I am. I'm trying to be. I'm not always successful. But waking up early after really refreshing deep sleep and starting having a productive day where that includes a lot of writing, and also maybe a couple of productive meetings with colleagues. And maybe submitting a paper and feeling that load off my chest. Or maybe receiving a email that says that my paper has been accepted.
That would be so good.
Yeah.
Sounds good. And what about non-work wise?
Oh, I guess that would involve I don't know a lot of shared activities with friends and doing something fun with good friends, whatever it is.
Yeah, sounds good. Cool. And we're pretty much at the end of the podcast.
All
Want to
right.
wave bye?
All right.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye bye.